Hi, I'm Andrew, the Young Adult and Media Librarian at North Brunswick Public Library. Would you like to be the President of the United States? If you would, then you should know that it will be your duty to protect the Constitution of the United States. In order to do that, you need to read the Constitution of the United States. And I should warn you that reading the entire Constitution from the preamble to the latest amendments, it's pretty slow going. It can be a bit drudgerous at times, although it's not especially long. But we have something that can help you with that because it will make reading the Constitution be more entertaining. This is the book Constitution Illustrated by Sikoryak. Now, if you look at the cover, you'll probably see characters that you recognize, even if they're dressed in the 18th century style. At the very least, you'll probably see characters done in a style by an artist that you know. Now, what Sikoryak did with this book is he took the Constitution of the United States and illustrated it excerpt by excerpt using classic comic strip characters or done in the style of famous artists. So, for example, if you look at the preamble, all right, on this page you can see it's done in the style of Raina Telgemeier. Raina Telgemeier, one of the most popular writer and artists of books at our library. In fact, at our first meeting on the 9th of December, we'll be discussing her book Smile. All right, and that's just meant to show the people of the United States. And the second side, you can see that this is a passage, Article 1, Selection 1, about the Senate versus the House of Representatives. All right, the idea is that this is done in the style of a classic cover featuring Superman racing the Flash. All right, the idea is that there's two superpowers. Now, sometimes you can see, sometimes the Sikoryak will use characters to illustrate points about the Constitution. He'll take the classic characters and put them in 18th century style, as he did with the character of Mandrake the Magician and Lothar, his friend. Mandrake the Magician is sometimes considered the first comic strip superhero. As he can do magic, and his friend is Lothar, and who's an African member of royalty. Right now, why is there an illustration of what seems like part of Lothar becoming invisible? Well, this is actually the portion that it illustrates. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned according among the several states which may be included within the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. And I think that Sikoryak is sort of pointing out the absurdity of that, the notion that, based on the color of their skin, someone would be considered only 3/5 of a person for population. That is not to say that the book is anti-Constitution, but it's okay to. I think that Sikoryak thinks it's okay to criticize it, and sometimes point out things that haven't necessarily aged well. But that's not to say that everything is negative here. Right? I think that there's definitely. I think the fact that it exists shows sort of a fondness of the Constitution, right? And actually, I wanted to. Another example of that, of how characters can show up, is that it can express different things here. All right, sometimes it's done with new characters, right? Not just 100-year-old characters, right? Actually, the Muppet Babies aren't really new characters so much anymore. But anyways, who better to illustrate points about tax and revenue than Scrooge McDuck? Yeah, and that's part of the fun. Yes, the humor of it is seeing these characters from from the newest to the oldest, illustrating the Constitution. I think the Constitution can sort of come alive that way. And yeah, here's some of my favorites from Bone. All right, and yeah, I'm not going to sit here and do the whole thing because that's part of the fun of that. But I do want to say, but there's one particular page I liked with Calvin and Hobbes. All right, and like look at all the snowmen in action. All right, and I also want to say, show who would be better to show the First Amendment, the amendments expressing the freedom of speech and freedom of the press, as that beloved big mouth Lucy, a character who would never be silenced. That's perfectly appropriate. I also liked how the Fourth Amendment is by characters from Boondocks. So yeah, there's a lot of that. And if you like Amulet, you can see that there's characters from Amulet as well. And part of the fun is sort of wondering which character will show up what. And there is an index that explains where all the images come from. What style is Sikoryak emulating. And there's also notes on the Constitution if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the history of all the passages from it, as well as a good biography. A good bibliography at the end. So yeah, so if you like, so if the idea of reading the Constitution doesn't seem very appealing to you, then this book might be the way to go. It can be because it can just be for fun. You can put a request on it to borrow it through our contactless pickup. And if you've read it, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it. And as always, I'm happy to hear requests for titles that you'd like me to look at or titles that you'd like the library to acquire. Happy reading.